Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. You know, one question I ask every guest on Everyday Martial Artist is about their favorite martial arts book. And there's never been one quite like Martial Theory by Steve Perlman, described as the art of war for the martial arts. Martial Theory helps any martial artist or instructor take their understanding and teaching to the next level. And at martialtheoryU.com, you'll find a global community with instructor groups, Q&A with Steve, live events, and demonstrations to help you apply martial theory directly to your training. It's not just a book, it's a movement. Find Martial Theory on Amazon, and when you join martialtheoryU.com, use discount code EverydayMA for 20% off. That's under $20 a month for life. That's martialtheoryU.com, code EverydayMA. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette, and as we do every week, we're joined by a brand new guest talking about their life and their journey throughout the world of martial arts and other stuff they're involved in. My guest today brings a unique blend of professional expertise, martial arts experience, and a deep commitment to service. A certified health coach and executive neuroscience account specialist, he's built a career at the intersection of science, performance, and helping others live better lives. He's also known to many as the Pitt Guru, a respected voice in the University of Pittsburgh athletics, and a senior writer for Pittsburgh Sports Now. A lifelong martial artist, he holds a third-degree black belt in Tang Soo Do and has trained across multiple disciplines, including Western boxing, Panatukan, Aikido, and combatives, giving him a well-rounded and practical perspective on training and personal development. Beyond his professional and martial arts pursuits, he's deeply involved in service, supporting autism initiatives, youth programs, and his church community. Guided by a simple but powerful philosophy, if you're breathing air, you should be helping others. He's married and has two sons, Gus and Max. Please welcome to the show today, Harry Psaros. How you doing today, Harry?
Fantastic. Such an honor to be on. Since my book launch, I've been on just a tremendous amount of podcasts, but to be able to talk about my martial arts journey is a thrill for me. So just an honor to be on.
I love it. And seriously, I especially with something like that, with a new book coming out, I know how busy people are. So anytime they're willing to take time and hop on my show and talk about martial arts, I truly, truly appreciate it. And thank you again for your time.
Oh, it's a pleasure being here.
Cool. Well, what we do with all my guests, I mentioned third-degree black belt, but what we want to know is where it started, where that first interest in martial arts came from, kind of that first spark that kicked off your martial arts journey.
Well, I've been at it for a while. In high school, I was a Key Club International trustee and a state governor. So I was tied down doing motivational speeches and traveling the country. And I come from a family committed to helping others. We believe in service. My brother's both an international and national philanthropist. And so it was too busy, but I get to college at the University of Pittsburgh, hail to Pitt. And I ended up going, I saw a flyer for a class with Master Curtis Smith. And myself and a few roommates went, and I grew up watching all the Kung Fu movies, all the Bruce Lee movies. That interests me. So here I am my freshman year, and I'm at that point 190 pounds, 200 pounds of muscle. I was really starting to lift, bodybuild. And it was an interesting system. It was like an amalgam of really just Aikido, self-defense, through a little bit of Kempo. It was sort of an amalgam of different styles.
Okay.
And I just fell in love with it. And I mean, it was it's funny. I know so much more now than I did back then, but it was a little bit of everything. We were doing breaking, learning kicks, punches, joint locks. And I just fell in love with it. And then from there, the extension of that, which I think it's still there at the University of Pittsburgh, they have what's called the East-West Martial Arts Club.
Oh.
And it was there you were able to learn, you were able to really train and just practice with just a slew of different styles. You'd have one guy that was trained on Kung Fu, one that was Muay Thai. So I absolutely loved it. And I went as far as I could go. I got next to the highest belt with them. And what occurred was I was in engineering school with a minor in physics and minor in philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, I got bogged down and I had to stop, which I regretted. And I've always been, I love the box. So I boxed there as well. And I would still go hit the heavy bag to get some stress out. But what happened, it's funny how life kind of catches up to you. We have our first son, Gus, who I wrote the book about. And we wanted to get him enrolled in Tang Soo Do. And I could talk about the benefits when it comes to autism and martial arts. But, I go and next thing you know, I'm hitting the heavy bag. And Master Bob Getty, who ran Getty's Elite Martial Arts, looks at me and he walks over. It's pretty comical. And he goes, "So you've done some fighting?" And I said, I have, sir. And he goes, "Okay, 1 minute." He walks over and I see him talking with my wife. And the next thing you know, he walks over and he goes, "You're starting on Monday." And that's just the way it went. And I truly loved Tang Soo Do. I ran with it as long as I could. But I think anyone that's passionate about the martial arts doesn't stop with one style and is always studying. Mm-hmm. So the one thing that I've done beyond, I would say, is my base style, which is Tang Soo Do. I obsessively, when I run into other martial artists, will pick their brain, or even during COVID, when we were all locked in our house, I called it, like, I made it into a martial arts college every night. I would spend an hour and a half on YouTube and go, okay, someone's coming at me with a rear choke, or someone's throwing a direct punch at me. And I would look at the various styles and how you would attack that approach if someone's coming at you. And so it's been quite a passion for me. Now, what slowed me down, I am, as I told you prior to this interview, I'm a type A lunatic. Mm-hmm. So I would go and pound the heavy bag without gloves hours on end, whether it was college into my 20s, into my 30s, and I absolutely obliterated my shoulders. I have long arms. It's funny. I have long arms, so I'm a striker, but I have thinner forearms. I inherited from my mother. So sometimes in Tang Soo Do, a block is a strike is a block, and I would inflict a little bit of pain on myself. But I got to the point where I would have had my master's belt. I was unable to do a lot of the forms because I could barely raise my right arm. And my youngest son, Max, plays safety for Allegheny College. He's a football player. Okay. And we were training and going. There's a local school here that does Muay Thai. And what I quickly found out is if you can't raise your right arm to put up your guard, you're going to get knocked out. So last September, I went and got what's called a Tournier stemless shoulder replacement. And I looked at again, I'm in the rejuvenation space. I'm a neuroscience executive. So I hit hyperbaric, I hit red light, I hit peptides, I hit everything. And I looked at my surgeon and I said, I'm going to be back at it. I'm going to be back at it quicker than most. And I really was. Nice. So I feel great now. And I feel rejuvenated, like I'm ready to either go back and try to get the 4th degree and get that master's belt, or dive into something new. But I'm back in the gym. I'm back into doing kettlebells and steel club and steel mace. But what I will tell you is just there isn't a day that goes by where I'm reading something martial arts related, studying something martial arts related. And I also believe, and it's highlighted in The Martial Way by Forrest Morgan, in absolutely I am flawless with my health, impeccable with my health. Nice. I eat clean, I work out. I'm probably one of the healthiest 52-year-olds, despite the shoulder, you'd ever want to see, because I think that has to be part of a martial arts mentality, is taking optimal care of yourself. I mean, in fact, that's something that, Bruce Lee early on pitched, before it became really vogue about adding, like, really mirroring nutrition with fitness. So, like I said, that's my story, and I love it, and I've seen the benefits of it. And I did a brief mention of the martial arts in my book, in particular with autism. I may write something and expound on that and make it into an ebook and sell on my website, because I do think more children that are level 1 or 2 and when it comes to autism should be involved in the martial arts. I think it's an individualistic sport, yet you still socialize, and it builds dexterity and confidence. I think there's a lot of ways that they should get involved.
Well, you mentioned Forrest Morgan. He's actually a former guest of the show. So shout out to Forrest. Hopefully maybe he's listening to this episode. That'd be cool. But I want to back up a little. First of all, to that first class you started at in college, about how many years were you there before you had to stop?
So that would have been a 4-year commitment when I was there. Now it tapered down a bit. What happened when you're in engineering school at University of Pittsburgh, you do what's called you're a co-op student. So you're bouncing back and forth, and honestly became quite rigorous when you added in all the physics classes. And then I have a passion for philosophy. I love Stoic philosophy in particular. It just became overwhelming from a time standpoint. Like I said, and my only regret when I was going through all that was not finding it. I was so busy my junior and senior year traveling all over the place. I always would work out, but I just wish I would have found it, let's say middle school, and got a chance to go and take more classes. And I admire the caliber of martial artists you have on this show. I know many of them are like, when you say lifelong, they started really young. I can't say I did that. I started in college.
Okay. And then during that the college training, did you ever do competition with that, or did they not focus on competition at all at that martial arts class?
No, not as much. It was, and that's what I honestly, and I'm going to be very honest. I hope I don't upset when it's listening, but I've done competitions, and what I will tell you in particular with our school was I found that when we were in some, you do nothing but train specifically for the competition and you don't progress. That's just my, 2 cents. The other thing I will tell you, I had been in, kata's one thing. Obviously, you're doing your forms. I remember one of the first few we went to, I knew my form flawlessly, but there are schools that are simply designed for the tournaments. They're there for trophies. Yep. And it sounded like every move they'd be giving birth. I mean, the key up was a scream that would go on for 5 minutes. And I remember looking at Master Getty going, I know my form left and right. I'm not doing that. I mean, it was beyond, to me, reproach. It was insane. And those are the people that would be awarded the trophies. So we were a school that really stuck to, and then this was like this in college, that really stuck to tradition, that really looked at the application for self-defense. And then, we would participate here or there. But I was kind of glad that we weren't one of the schools, even in I did go to a few competitions to watch and participate as well in college. But in terms of our Tang Soo Do school, I was really happy that we focused, I think, on what matters. And that's honoring the tradition. And we really did. We also studied the history of Tang Soo Do, and we got tested on it. And I loved that. And we also really looked at all the practical applications, because I think any martial artist listening to this, and there are some that are way more advanced than me I've listened to on your show, you truncate what you know down to some specific moves if there's an altercation or you're trying to protect yourself or your family. And to me, that's what matters. Going to a competition and screaming vociferously and breaking eardrums, to me, didn't mean as much. Now, the sparring part I always loved. To me, the passion that I have is always the sparring and the chess match. And I tell people that haven't trained, you never judge a book by its cover. I've always been amazed at the different body structures and sizes and BMIs that you might run into in the martial arts. And it's easy to overlook someone. You think, I got them, I'm bigger than them. But all of a sudden they're so skilled that they're throwing you to the mat. You know what I mean? It's amazing to me. And that I'm a goofball. I will look, I'll be either lifting weights or I'll be working out the kettlebell, and I'll see someone that's like rather large or rather small and go, well, if I was sparring them, what would I do? Would I go inside? Would I go outside? And I think martial artists think that way. It's always kind of a chess match in your head where you're trying to figure that out. That aspect of it, I absolutely love.
And I know you said you've always been like working on the heavy bag and stuff, but so after you stopped the martial arts training in college, how long of a break was it other than hitting the heavy bag until you actually joined the Tang Soo Do school?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think here. So that would be a 5 to 6 year period.
Okay.
And, but let me say this, even then the passion was there. So the studying didn't stop. Yeah. I mean, I think Musashi's The Book of Five Rings, I think I've read that 5 times. Sun Tzu, I've read 5 times. I mean, it was always there. And I think, you get married and you're rolling and trying to get your life set up. And it was +2 geography matters. We moved I grew up in a proud steel town called Weirton, West Virginia, which is about 30, 40 miles from Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And once we moved closer, we're basically 10 minutes from the Pittsburgh airport now. It opened up a lot more schools. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I will tell you, there's styles that I would dive into to train. I'm just limited in terms of geography. They're too far away.
Yeah.
And there's some that I like even downtown Pittsburgh, but the drive would be excruciating back and forth because I actually develop migraine clinics. I'm all over the place and I just don't have time for.
Yeah.
So having that Tang Soo Do school right there, I just jumped the second I heard, the opportunity to do it. And I've never looked back, and I really enjoyed my time. And like I said, right now I'm in a pivot point where I feel very good with the new shoulder. I'm probably going to need the left done in about 2 years.
Okay.
But I'd love to dive either back into that or find a new style, one of the two.
Nice. So you talked about, and the college one, that first one, you were hooked, you were in, you just fell in love with the Tang Soo Do school. What was it about it? What was it about the instructor, the specific class style that just drew you in right away? And man, this is it.
And it's a great question. I'll tell you what it is. I love, and people could scream and yell at me all they want. I consider boxing a form of American martial arts, Western boxing.
Yep, definitely.
And it's important to note, I study pugilism, and I'm doing an online course right now with Bartitsu. I love that old school where you get a little bit of that element of boxing with martial arts thrown in. Now, the one thing I could do was box. I understood, and when I noticed the first class I saw, I'm like, wait a minute, all of the strike, not all of the hand strikes, but many replicate boxing. So to me, my initial thought was, in terms of strikes, hand strikes, I got this down, but then you learn the hammer fist and the back fist and things like that. And I'm like, let me add the kicks, and this is going to be great to my armamentarium. And it was a natural fit for me. Where, there are some even like Taekwondo is a little more kick-oriented, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this, to me, seemed like an absolute natural fit coming from someone that was obsessive about boxing. And I thought this was great, and I do have people that ask me on a regular basis. I am now your age. I'm 52. They'll go, I'm in my 50s.
Yep.
I don't know if I have a lot of time for classes on a regular basis. What do I do? And my first recommendation is start with boxing, because I think it's a great fundamental. Like I said, it's something great to learn, and you could build off of. And that's kind of what I did with Tang Soo Do.
Nice. And about how long were you there training in Tang Soo Do until you started the cross training and testing other martial arts and stuff?
Oh, I've always done that.
Okay.
To me, I just have this ridiculous thirst for knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So the more I was actually into it, the more I wanted to interact with people. I have guys here that go to Thailand every year to fight Muay Thai.
Okay.
People may laugh at this. My brain exploded when I learned the teep. And then I started applying it to my sparring at class, and I would nail someone's hip and throw them off kilter and then go right at them and I'd back them into a corner, And I was like, oh my God, this is incredible, because it's like a snap kick, but it's both defensive and offensive at the same time. And I was learning really, they were showing me some slight techniques to enhance like an elbow and things like that. And any chance I ran into someone with a different style, I love picking their brain, comparing it, and possibly meeting them to train for a little bit. So I think, the one thing I'll tell you, I remember, this goes years and years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I had bested someone when it was a competition, and I won, and I walked off, and I looked kind of haughty. I felt really good about myself. And the one master from another school grabbed me, said, just a little lesson. And he grabbed a sugar packet and he spilled it out, and he grabbed one granule and he said, this is what you know. And he pointed to the pile that was down and he said, this is martial arts. And I understood what he meant.
Yeah.
Like, take a breath and understand that you're just starting your journey, and it's a lifelong education, So it's always stuck with me. And so, like I said, it's something I'm passionate about. Heck, last night, I'm watching Ip Man. I'm watching some techniques on YouTube, and there's always something I'm trying because I really do love it, and I just want to further educate myself.
I like that. So you mentioned before that, if there were some other there's some other styles you'd love to learn, but they're obviously not around you. What are some of those styles, some of those dream styles that you've never got to train in yet?
You know what? In a perfect world, I'd be independently wealthy, and I would go and learn every version of Kung Fu possible.
Nice.
I think it would be tremendous fun. I mentioned Bartitsu. Those are few and far between that I could see. It's something that I've kind of studied and I would love. So right now, the online course that I purchased, and I'm actually DMing back and forth with the guy that put it together. Yeah, Kung Fu would be one. I have friends that have upper belts in like Kenpo, which is a lot of fun. But I think that, like I said, I just think the tradition and all the animal styles with Kung Fu would be just fascinating to just dive into and learning. And beyond just learning physically how to perform the maneuvers and the self-defense, the history, things like, I think I'm into that as well, you know. But and we have some phenomenal Kung Fu schools, but they are, from a distance standpoint, it'd be pretty difficult for me on a regular to be able to attend. Now, there is actually a school relatively close to this, Krav Maga.
Nice.
I'm considering that as well, just to add to my armamentarium. I think they do. It's more of obviously more combatives, and I've done that as well. My neighbor ran his own Tang Soo Do school, but he taught combatives, and I would train with Ray all the time. So, like I said, if I sound ADHD about the martial arts, it's because I just don't think you stop learning. And I just love plucking away, even Aikido. You know, there were aspects of Aikido that he brought in, Master Smith, when I was in college. And, you know, I know that I dislike a lot of these videos you see online where they go, what's ineffective and effective? And I think I would tell any martial artist, learn your style to the best of your ability, and you're still going to be better than the guy out there that's never trained.
Exactly.
You're going to have situational awareness. You're going to be better. You're going to know when a punch is coming. But, you know, I know like online, there's a great YouTube channel called Aikido Flow, and they do what he did, and they extracted the applicable moves if you're being assaulted that would really matter. Like, I hate to say this, but like even a Steven Seagal application, you know, of, yes, I understand some of it's frou-frou and might not be applicable in an altercation, but there are portions of it that are, and that's what you need to learn. And that's still stuck with me. I have those in my armamentarium. So I think I see the world of martial arts to me as a buffet table, and you take what works and you try to learn, and you benefit from picking someone else's brain if it's outside your style.
And I love that you made that comment, because I've had that, I guess, almost argument with so many people, martial artists, like, oh, this style's better. This style. It's like what the odds of you getting into a conflict with an actual trained martial artist are slim to none. At least if they're a well-trained martial artist, they're not going to go picking a fight with you. So the fact that you know anything is going to be better than the person you're probably going to get in a conflict with.
I'd say it absolutely. And the other thing I do, and I have my sons watch, is, oh, man, if you go on the internet, I mean, you're surrounded by these stupid street fights.
Yeah.
Every single person that isn't trained, they do the same thing. They try to throw the haymaker, and, you know, and you could tell, and half the time they're throwing punches, not even hitting each other. They look like buffoons, and these are untrained fighters. So I tell anybody, I disagree with anyone. They try to break down I'm sure some styles are better than others, but at the end of the day, a trained martial artist, regardless of what they're training in, to me is going to be far better, unless the street fighters, and I cover sports, obviously.
Yeah.
I've been around NFL linemen, college linemen that are 6'6", 6'7", 300 plus pounds. That's an issue.
Yeah.
You know, that's an issue. You got to really, there's a chess match there. Outside of those guys, I think you're fine, you know, and I hate the comparisons and the styles. And anybody that knows anything about these arts, you're not, you know, they try to go to these, make fun of some of the more flashy kicks and things like that. You're not going to do that in a street fight. You know, you're going to apply some straight basic kicks that, you know, like for me, it would be the roundhouse and the snap kick and things like that. So like I said, I always enjoyed that my first experience was like an amalgam of different styles. It rooted in me the interest to learn from anybody that I ran into.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing I'll say this too, and I've had to do this a few times, is you do develop confidence. And I think, you know, people that can read body language, your words can get you out of an altercation. And if you are a black belt and on, you need to try to use words and just explain to the person, listen, I am trained. If this proceeds and something happens, it's not my fault. And on occasion, I've been able to avoid 2 altercations by just forcefully explaining that, bad things can happen if we were to progress. And I didn't have to raise a fist after that, And so, but like I said, I would encourage anyone. And again, you have had on, people that I admire beyond belief that have been training for 40 years, they're grandmasters. But I would encourage anyone listening to this, just go out and learn as much as you can, and don't sit there and silo yourself in one style. Try to pick constantly and learn and just build your armamentarium up.
Yeah. I know one thing that someone asked, I forgot, I was being interviewed by someone, and they asked me something to the effect of, how many times have you used martial arts in a fight? And they said, anytime I've not gotten into a fight, it's because I used martial arts. And they didn't get that at first. That's such a critical point to make. When the person is reading your body language and they're yelling but you're relaxed, that's not, the other person needs to know the reason you're relaxed is because you're very confident what you can do. And it is multiple times got me out of altercations because I could read it in their face going, this might be a mistake, And the other thing I will say about Master Smith too is he would teach what I believe was called Budo, which again is goes beyond the martial arts, and that's sort of what I apply in my book as well. Is what do you learn? What core principles are there to really run your life? In other words, you're applying martial arts to your life beyond the physical part, right? And that
kind of set me off, and that's when I was writing my book, I wanted to put some of those applications about raising a child on the spectrum.
Nice. I like it. So I got to ask, in your career as a sports writer, have you been lucky enough yet to cover any type of martial arts event as a sports writer?
I'd love to say yes, but now what I have covered are a lot of like football players that are also martial artists.
Okay.
And I'm the top social media influencer for the University of Pittsburgh. Like you said, I'm known as the Pitt Guru. I founded the first 2 sites covering Pitt sports. We do a podcast on Sundays. Sometimes we move to Mondays. We did do that last week. But you want to talk about a formidable mix when you're interviewing, let's say, and I've had this multiple times, a linebacker that is 6'3", 225 to 230 pounds of muscle, and they're also a black belt, and those guys I jive with quite a bit. We'll go back and forth and talk. And Pitt once had a punter whose name, and it's actually right from our area, whose name's escaping me at the moment, that actually went on to fight MMA. And so, I do have that sometimes they will collide and we get a chance to talk about that. But, I have to stick with collegiate sports, and you don't have a lot of martial arts in collegiate sports, obviously. We do some Steelers as well. And as I said, we're pretty excited. The NFL draft will be here this week coming up. And we're going to have about 800,000 to 900,000 people invade the city of champions, Pittsburgh. And we're really excited about that.
Nice. As a 3rd degree black belt, have you ever got into the teaching side of martial arts?
Absolutely. And it was an honor when I was asked. And my favorite part about it was working with youth. And I think one of the biggest thrills I got each and every time was board breaking. And the reason I say that, people don't get it. Like they'll go, oh, okay, that's great. The kid broke the board, but it doesn't look that thick. And I'm like, you're missing the point. A, it builds confidence. B, that board represents any difficulty that young boy or young girl is going to have in life, and they just smash through it.
Yep.
So people may call it hokey, but on top of the break and congratulating them, I would always give them a little small mini lecture on what that meant. And, if you could do that, you could tackle anything in life. So I always enjoyed it. Like I said, and when Master Getty asked me, it was for a period of time. I really, really did enjoy it.
Could you ever at any point in your life see yourself potentially opening a school if you did go back and get that 4th degree? Would that ever be a possibility?
I tell you, it would be great, but so you have to keep my schedule in mind.
Yeah.
I develop migraine clinics, soup the nuts. I'm an executive neuroscience specialist. On top of that, now I'm an author whose book has gone international, and I'm going to be writing my 2nd one. And then after that, I have the sports gig, which I've had for 30 years. So I am extraordinarily busy. The thought of opening up a school, I think my wife would throw me out of the house. She's about, she's probably a little over 100 pounds, and she could still probably kick my butt, though. I got to be careful. And it would be great, but it's very pie in the sky based on everything that I do.
Yeah.
And I'm on the board of directors for the Autism Caring Center. I help found an organization called Pals for Special Needs Children. I believe in giving back. So, and I also I'm Greek Orthodox, very involved with our church as well. And we do a lot of outreach through the church. And So if you add all that up, I'm lucky if I have a minute. I'm just very lucky that I have a lot of energy and I can commit to all of those. So adding a school on top of that would be a bit too much.
I get it. Like I said, my instructor has tried numerous times to get me to open a school, and it's just same thing. I've just never had the timing. I'm like you. I'm always busy, and to me, it almost backfired because the whole reason I started this podcast, during COVID was because my voiceover stuff and my sports PA announcing disappeared during COVID. I didn't even think to myself, well, what happens when they come back? So, because now I'm doing it all plus the podcast, and it's like, yeah, and at the time had 3 kids and college and high school and everything, and I get it. I get being busy, and that was always one of the dreams, was opening a school myself for a long time, and probably one of those dreams I'll probably never get to live out.
And it would be, but there's no way, there's no way. It doesn't take away my desire to keep learning, but there's no way I could open a school.
Yeah. So over your martial arts career, have you done any weapons training? And if so, is there a favorite weapon you've got to train with?
Oh boy. Skrima, Korean sword, which is, not that different than the traditional Japanese style, the pole staff. I mean, so I would say that the sword to me was so fun. Engage again, the history behind it, was amazing. The other thing was just, if you do it correctly, you're doing so many squats per se, because you're driving down into the opponent, and you're leaning in with your legs, and and I have pretty strong legs. I mean, there isn't a class that we'd finish up or I wasn't sore. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed the sword quite a bit. And I found Eskrima Kali to be nice. Fascinating, just fascinating. The speed and the techniques involved. A lot. And actually, if you learn that, then the knife application's not that much different, right? Because it started with a machete and then they switched to the sticks. So, in fact, if I had to do anything, if I had to pursue anything right now, and we have a couple in the area that are masters, I would love to go, listen, we've done a Eskrima, but show me the knife application. I'd love to learn a lot more about that.
And that maybe you just answered my next question, but kind of on the flip side, is there a weapon you've never got to learn that you want to, kind of like a dream weapon to train with?
Oh, for sure. That would be it. That would be it. I would love, we have a tremendous martial artist in the area, Keith Leonard, whose borderline expertise is the knife. And I would love to be able to spend some time and learn it. I think it'd be incredible.
Nice. Awesome. And you mentioned the podcast earlier. Tell people the title of that and where they can hear it.
So we do every Sunday. It's called Talking Football. The originator was a guy named JJ Kitchen. So it's Talking Football with JJ Kitchen. It's on YouTube. If you Google JJ Kitchen. Mm-hmm. So what happened one day is he said, listen, I'd love for you to join me. And I am well known in University of Pittsburgh fan base, and we had a flood of new people come in. And then we've added Eric Dudick, and Eric does what's called the Berg Cave podcast. Eric played college football. He is a savant when it comes to breaking down plays. And between the three of us, it has just taken off. So we have done live podcasts locally. And it's just been tremendous fun. And we do them usually on Sunday nights. If someone's ill or someone's busy, like last week, we shifted to Monday. We had on the University of Pittsburgh's general manager for basketball. And we talked about NIL right now, which is affecting college basketball. And it's just tremendous fun. I have written articles, though. If anyone's familiar with Aaron Donald, Larry Fitzgerald, who's now getting into the Hall of Fame, Shady McCoy, Darrell Revis, these are all the guys who are from the ground level. I was there when they committed, and I've written articles on them left and right. So I have actually, fun fact, I have Larry Fitzgerald's VHS high school highlight tape almost in front of me right now here in my study. And to think he's getting into the Hall of Fame is incredible. I wrote almost every initial article on him. So I got to know his family. I got to interview him multiple times. And so it's a lot of fun. Something I've gone from, like I said, I started ground up. I threw the first site out there, and I developed the rivals.com site, the scout.com, which is now 24/7 sports. And I've always my forte is recruiting. And I try to I feel like I'm way past the 10,000 hours Malcolm Gladwell talks about. I try to help as many athletes, in particular D2 and D3, and my son is a D3 football player, find scholarships and go to school. If you're a D, and I've dealt with many of these guys, if you're a D1 athlete that has 20 scholarships, you're good. You don't need help.
Yeah.
But there are so many opportunities out there, and I used to run camps and as well. And I love seeing young men, live out their dream, go play football, and then earn their degree. It's an incredible feeling.
I like it. And you mentioned, writing articles and stuff. And obviously I want to mention the book in a moment, but where did that love of writing come from?
That's a great question. I don't really know. And I will tell you this. I have an engineering degree, and I told you the minor in philosophy and physics. And I've told my wife this story. I would go in University of Pittsburgh when I was there, had the #1 philosophy school in the country. And I had several of those professors come to me and go, "What on earth are you doing as an engineer?" And obviously I'm out of it now. I'm developing migraine clinics, and they said to me, "You should get your PhD and write books and teach." And, it was validation to me that I could write. They were coming back to me, and I did. I had two say to me, "Listen, the way your brain works, you should be a philosopher." Plus, I'm Greek. I think it's in my blood, honestly. I'm separated a little from Socrates, but, and it was validation. And Pitt needed a resurgence. We were horrific in football when I graduated, and I decided I'm going to rev up the fan base. It takes one guy to just really raise his voice, and that's what I did. So to this day, I'm known as the hype man for the University of Pittsburgh. I think I'm all about, and it's on the cover of my book, I'm all about positivity and optimism. And luckily, we ended up getting Walt Harris as our head coach, kind of rejuvenated the program, which really helped build my fan base up. And at one point, I was the only show in town. I mean, I had people I was getting DMs from all around the world, people that graduated from the school. I remember the one from Tel Aviv, Israel, and it was pretty incredible. So I've always been part of the narrative here when it comes to the sports narrative, and I try to keep it as positive as possible.
All right. So talk about the book. Give the title and when it came out and just kind of what led to it, and then talk a little bit about the next book you're writing too.
Sure, absolutely. So let me first preface with a book that I wrote, which is an Amazon bestseller. It's called From Struggle to Strength: A Father's Journey with Autism and the Power of Hope and Positivity. And again, if you're Googling it, or you know someone affected by autism, you're going to find gold boxing gloves on the cover. I wanted to bring the warrior's mentality to this book. And gold is the color of hope. So we actually, believe it or not, since we're on a martial arts podcast, debated. Do we do more of a martial arts cover or just put the boxing gloves? We decided boxing gloves are kind of universally known. So we put that on there. But to preface why I wrote the book, I do a lot of speaking at fundraisers and conferences and things like that. And I start noticing just countless mothers coming up to me. I mean, in particular, one experience, I was speaking and I had like 10 to 12 mothers line up, emotional. And I thought, did I say something wrong? I couldn't figure what was going on. And they physically grabbed me and said, "Harry, we need your help. We have children on the spectrum. Either our husbands or boyfriends aren't on board, and we need you to go talk with them." And I did that, actually. I reached out to many of them. And on top of that, I was able to introduce what I would think is the Mount Rushmore of warrior moms nationally.
Nice.
There's authors like Kate Swenson, Carrie Cariello. And I would grab them and go, "Can I ask you a question? I love what you're doing, and I admire any warrior mom out there with a child on the spectrum. But name me 5 dads nationally that you could, 5 popular dads, well-known dads that are making a difference." And they couldn't name one. Wow. They named the one named a few that have podcasts, and I've done those. But it occurred to me that there is really no prevalent male voice in the autism space. And I think just dads bring a different perspective. So I wrote a speech and I delivered it here at Pittsburgh at the Autism Caring Center's Mother's Day conference. They had about 450, maybe 500 moms there. And I got the same response. People are coming up going, "I wish my husband was at where you're at. I'm doing this alone." And raising a child, whether you have 1 or 2, on your own, if the child is on a spectrum, is a Herculean task. Mm-hmm. So I looked at my wife and I said, "Let me tell you what I'm going to do. This speech I wrote today, I'm going to convert this into a book." But what I did intentionally, my book is about 150 pages long, and it's done intentionally for a reason. if you hand like Tolkien's The Hobbit, which is really thick, to a belligerent dad that isn't on board, he's tossing it out the window. My book is a very quick and efficient read, and it's meant to really get through to, and there's two types of dads. You either have the macho dad that thinks he's way too tough to have a child that has a disability, or you get the dad that simply is so overwhelmed by the diagnosis, the wife interprets his silence as being belligerent, but he's not. He just doesn't know where to start. So I wanted to address both of those fathers in the book. Ultimately, From Struggle to Strength, because Hope and Positivity is on the cover, it's two things. It's one, it's a motivational book. So this does apply to moms. I don't make it sound like it's all dads.
Right.
But the other thing, it works synergistically with the how-to books. And the reason I say that, and I'm here in my study, I'm staring at about 30 of them. They are enormous. And I wanted, like I said, to be able to get through to them. So what I did was apply a lot of perspective on martial arts on raising my son. I put it in there. So you're going to read a lot of Sun Tzu. There's a little bit of Bruce Lee mixed in there. I am all about blunt advice. So I even threw in some quotes and some ideas from like David Goggins, who's a New York Times bestseller. Yep. And I love his attitude. There's just no excuses, And so I wanted to, like I said, intertwine my experiences through martial arts and what it's taught me and put it in. And I think it's a formula that has worked. We've converted now the book to Greek, Spanish, French, and German.
Wow.
And I have been on podcasts. It's just incredible to me, from New Zealand to Australia to Africa to the UK. I've been all over the world. So this is the first one, though. Honestly, I'm excited. Like I said, I was able to talk about my martial arts background, but it's a book that I feel is making a difference. I receive DMs from fathers and mothers around the world. And you said this in the beginning, my personal philosophy, if you're breathing air, you should be giving back. Mm-hmm. And this book, we call in Greek philotimo, good for the sake of doing good. That's what this is doing, and it's been a thrill.
That's awesome. And you mentioned working on a second book. What's that one going to be about? And when can we
I have a few in mind. I want to do a write, and I'm going to keep the boxing theme kind of going, the martial arts theme with these, but okay. I want to do a father's manual. And then what I think right now, honestly, I'm struggling. I'm looking between that. And I want to interview dads that are doing it right. And when I say that, there's level 1, 2, and 3 with autism, mild, moderate, and severe. And I want to find dads that have children in each of those buckets, multiple dads that are doing it right, that are fully invested in interviewing them. Because I want a dad that might be struggling to read a book like that and go, my gosh, these guys are doing it. I could do it too. And I would write the intro and the outro to the book, But so I have a lot in mind. I'm kind of ambitious, and it's just a matter of I'm going to go pen to pad here soon. The international books, when we converted them, have taken some time for me in terms of promotion. Yeah. So, but my goal is to get as many parents on board, in particular fathers that might be resistant, and wake up and go, I'm all in. I had if I could briefly share a story, I had a father out of the UK DM me, sent me like 6 paragraphs, but his son was probably level 2, a little more moderate. His wife was treading water. I mean, he wasn't on board. He was fighting her. He admitted to me he was angry at her, angry at his child, and angry at God, didn't understand the situation. She finally said, please read this. And he read my book and just had a paradigm shift in thinking. He walked down the steps the next day, looked at his wife and went, how can I help? And she nearly fell over. Wow. And that was the most special email to me. And that's a guy that I might end up interviewing for the book I just mentioned. It was remarkable to me, and that's the kind of change that I'm trying to put out there. And I want to become one of the more preeminent male voices out there. I'm sure, and there's some others that they're trying as well. Mm-hmm. But I think there needs to be a father's perspective in this. And that's what I'm trying to do at the moment. And I will tell you, there's a desire to hear from someone like me. I mean, it's endless. I have another podcast I'm doing tomorrow, but it's just an honor to know that I'm doing some good. It's an honor to know all these people are reading the book. And I will tell you, it's a formula I thought would work. And I got some resistance from my publisher, but it's worked. Even the cover has worked. Nice. It's been a conversational piece. I
like it. So I'm curious, with your busy schedule for writing, do you set time aside and be like, all right, every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday from 2 to 4, I'm going to write? Or is it just when you have time, you write? I mean, how does that work with your busy schedule?
What I found for me, and this won't shock anybody, my brain works better in the morning when you get up, when you're fatigued and tired. So what I find is I will write in spurts in the mornings. And when I have ideas at night, when I'm finally home and settled, what I found was I would write until I ran into a wall and go, you know what? I know it's going to happen. I'm going to wake up and the words are going to come to me. And that's exactly what would happen. So you could do a little bit of both when you have time, but I can only speak for myself. I optimally would take like a peptide to kind of wake the brain up a little bit. And then next thing you know, I'm writing like crazy in the morning, just come to me. Or it's almost humorous too. There's times where I would find a quote, whether it's Sun Tzu or whatever it might be, and go, oh my gosh, this applies, And I'll never forget the final chapter of my book. It's probably the worst Rocky movie, but with the best quote. Rocky is talking to his son. And by the way, what's really sad, I believe in real life, Sylvester Stallone lost his son, but it's his son in the movie. And he's talking about how nothing hits you harder than life. And I'm cleaning my house the one day and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to finish the final chapter of the book. And Sylvester Stallone starts talking about that quote and I go, oh my Lord, I think God just talked to me. And I stopped it, wrote it down. And from there, my brain exploded. So instead of cleaning, I ended up like writing for like the next hour. And that's how things go. You just kind of wait till it comes to you.
See, and that's funny. You said that being one of the worst Rocky movies. It's actually one of my favorites. And I just had another guest last week. It's also one of his favorites, Rocky 5. So
shame on me then.
There's a diehard group of us that love it, but I understand the majority don't.
All right. You know what? I may rewatch it tonight. You got me motivated. Maybe I should give it a second chance. But I will tell you, too, if someone looks and asks why the boxing gloves as well, I saw every single day, every day, is entering the ring with my son. And when I say that, I thought if there's a day I don't work on something to help my son progress. And let me say this, I am so proud of Gus. He graduates from Kent State University on May 9th. Nice. If you hear a bunch of Greeks yelling, Oppa, that's me. And the reason I say that, all this kid has been told throughout his life is what he can't do. And I tell both my sons, there are no limitations in the mind. People put them on you or you put them on yourself. If you eliminate them, the sky's the limit. And he will be walking across the stage with his first degree, and I'm immensely proud. But I saw every day I decided to take a break from assisting my son is dropping my guard during a fight. And we all know what happens if you drop your guard. You're going to get knocked out. So there is everything. There's a lot of meaning in the book, And I also talk about in my book the 2% rule. And I open it by talking about Tang Soo Do class and how you start to somebody that doesn't know how to throw a punch just kind of throws their arm out. Then you realize it starts with your base, right? From your feet, and it's kinetic. It goes through your body and it goes with your hips. And what you find is you have feeding therapy, socialization therapy. You have therapists at your house coming in the morning. You have therapists coming in the afternoon. And you have people telling you all these deficiencies with your son. And what I decided to do was eliminate the cacophony and go, today I'm going to make my son 2% better at one thing. So I know at the end of the day, I've made improvement. Now, if he does like 2 or 3 things after that, great. That's like icing on the cake. And it's like kind of like Atomic Habits on steroids. But I know that feeling of being overwhelmed because you have a child that's behind their peers or struggling in different ways. But if you listen to everyone throwing it at you, you almost get stymied. You can't go too far. I would eliminate all that and apply my 2% rule and go, today we're working on a new food substance. Today we're going to work on socialization. So it's another martial arts application because I don't care how good you are, you're never good enough. If you're throwing a punch, there's probably a way you could throw it better. And that's kind of the mindset I had every single day with my son on the spectrum. And like I said, I mean, I'm proud to say that it's paid dividends. And Gus is an example of what and I don't want to make it imply that he's perfect. We're still working on things. But he's an example of what can happen with just unrelenting love and discipline.
I love it. All right. So over your martial arts career, worst martial arts related injury. Have you had any bad ones?
Oh, you don't even want to know. Here we go. So let me say this. Congratulations to my orthopedic surgeons. I think I put his kids through school. So nice. Let's start with the knees. First of all, oh my God, I wish I might get my wife on the phone. She would laugh. I have so many broken toes, and it's not from really bad technique. I don't want to blame technique. I mean, from scraps, right? When you're sparring, things like that, I mean, they get hit. So I have toes that are pointing literally side to side. It's almost comical. I have like Quasimodo feet. Then let's go up to the knees. I have tore my right knee, my kicking knee, twice. The one quick comical story I'll give you was I was so in love with the flying sidekick, because you feel like an action figure.
Oh, yeah.
That, again, I said this, if you can't tell I'm over caffeinated, I'm a type A lunatic. I was practicing so many. The final one, I heard a pop. And I'm Greek. We have a food festival at my church. The next 3 days, I had to wrap it as it increasingly starts swelling. And I'm carrying 50-pound trays of lamb for 3 straight days. And I'm doing shots of Ouzo and taking Motrin to get through. And if anybody knows Ouzo, it's Greek moonshine, basically. We get in the car the following day to go to the beach. We go to the first rest stop, and I literally can't walk. And a little did I know I tore my knee badly. And I went through our entire trip to Bethany Beach, limping and barely making it to the beach.
Wow.
So 2 knee surgeries there. Then I've had a left shoulder clean out. And then, as I mentioned a year ago, when they went in, it got to the point I couldn't even raise my right arm. Once I tore, and I was still working out, but I tore my labrum. And when the surgeon went in, she told my wife I had a debris field of bone. There was literally nothing holding my shoulder. So thankfully, I went to a younger up-and-coming orthopedic surgeon. And like I said, what she put in me is less equipment than your traditional reverse shoulder. And now I'm back to swinging 80-pound kettlebells. I do steel mace. I like a lot of Western style training. Not that I don't go into the gym on occasion, but my strength is infinitely back. My muscles back. So I am the type where I would rather be in front of a surgeon and injuring myself every day as opposed to sitting on the couch for an hour and eating bonbons.
Nice.
You know?
I like it. All right. So what are your thoughts on MMA? Are you a fan? Do you watch the UFC?
I do. I don't want to say I'm like a passionate fan, but I do like it. I absolutely appreciate the dedication all the fighters have. The one aspect, and I have a lot of friends in jiu-jitsu. That's kind of outside my purview. It passed me up, you know. But I'm a huge fan of, like, Anderson Silva's probably one of my favorite all-time fighters.
Nice.
Alex Pereira, you know, a lot of the strikers I would watch and just admire. But I'm not one of these guys where every single time there's a pay-per-view, I'm grabbing it up.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy watching it when it's on. And I really admire the training that goes in, the amalgam of skills. And I will argue for them every chance I get, because I hear people that haven't trained and go, oh my God, they just roll on the ground and beat each other up. I'm like, no, you're not getting it. You know, you're not understanding the hours of training these guys put in. So they have my complete admiration. But if I had to give my MVP, it'd be Anderson Silva. I just loved it. That was one guy I followed closely and just loved the way he fought.
Nice. What you mentioned about pay-per-view, I think, you know, back when that was only on 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 times a year, it was much easier to watch every pay-per-view than when it was on once a week. So.
Well, and I agree, because I will have people hit me up and they know my background and go, you watching it this weekend? I'm like, oh my God, I forgot it's on again.
Exactly.
It seems like it's so often, but as much as I do love it, I should be getting more into it. And I think a lot of it too is when you cover sports the way I do, sometimes you're trained to like right now at the draft, it's constant. We're on, doing a lot of interviews for different athletes, things like that. So you kind of get taken away from it. But I need to get more into it. And I'm sure if I get in, I'll be hooked. I want to say don't watch it, but not as much as I should be.
No, I get it. All right. I got a few fun questions we used to wrap up the interview. We were just talking about MMA. Let's say at some point in your life, you decided you were going to fight. You were going to go into the UFC. You were going to go into the octagon. What's your walk-up song? What music's playing as you're taking that walk into the cage?
Oh God, this is easy peasy. So I'm contemplating a passion project on this. I am a hardcore metalhead.
Oh,
and I love punk and hardcore as well. So I would say you're either looking at Ace of Spades or Motorhead, maybe Seek and Destroy, Metallica. Walk, anything from Pantera is ballsy as it gets. You know what I mean?
Nice.
Probably Walk from Pantera. So it would have to be really heavy, really hardcore. And what I love about heavy metal, and I'm going to write on the psychology of it, it taps into the primal scream. It's the only type of music that taps into the primal scream. So one of the above, even a Slayer song I could throw out there too. I mean, it'd be something like that.
I like it. All right. Who are 3, 4, 5 names you'd put on your personal Mount Rushmore of martial arts?
Okay, first of all, I have to say Grandmaster Huang Ki, who really developed Tang Soo Do. I've done a lot of research on him, and I have great admiration. Then an extension of that would be the late but incredibly great Chuck Norris, who just passed.
Yes.
Chuck was able to Americanize and create his own system of Tang Soo Do. So, and the third, who I think is, and I've heard people like poo-poo, they think it's a layup answer, but Bruce Lee has brought so many people into the martial arts. Yes. I think you're a buffoon if you don't include him, not to mention the aura. And I will say this, I mean, I said this before many times. I'm a philosopher. I study Stoic philosophy. I love philosophy. He is as much a philosopher as he is a martial artist. And one of my prized possessions is from Shannon Lee, who I got a signed copy of Be Water, My Friend.
Nice.
And there's also, I'm trying to remember, there's another book, The Warrior Within.
Yep.
And I'm trying to think of the, from John Little. He wrote about his philosophies. And to me, you have to appreciate the totality of the person. And if you don't think he's brought more people than anyone into the martial arts, you're out of your mind. So I can't say enough about Bruce Lee. And I've also been retweeted many times by Shannon Lee. I was raving about Warrior on Netflix, the show that was out.
Yep.
It is so good. If you haven't watched it, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
And I would recommend anyone, after they're done watching the final Rocky, because I was embarrassed that he told me it was one of your favorite films. After Rocky V, go watch Warrior. And all you need to do is watch the opening scene with Andrew Koji.
Oh, so good.
Knock out 2-3 people, and you're going to be hooked. And Koji actually is an incredible martial artist. He'll be in the upcoming Street Fighter movie.
I'm trying to get him on my show.
To the list, because I'm rambling. Benny the Jet, or Urquidez, to me, someone who's just an amazing fighter who took all comers. I've studied his stuff for a while. And in terms of like more the celebrity type, Michael Jai White, to me, I just love his persona. I love the way he conducts himself. I watch a lot of his training videos, and I'm like, I would give anything for a day with this guy just to train. I mean, he's amazing. So, and I could go on. I mean, I have admiration for, I take in ridiculous amounts of film and movies and when it comes to the martial arts. So you could run down, from Tony Jai to Bolo Yung to, any of them. I love them all. But those, I would say Quan Ki, Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, and Benny the Jet, and Michael Jai White would be, for me, impactful guys.
Nice. I like it. All right. How about, I know you said you like reading and stuff. So how about a favorite martial arts book?
So first I will tell you, I love Living the Martial Way by Forrest Morgan.
Yes.
And what blew me away, I actually ended up finding, I was listening to his interview on your podcast, and he is at Carnegie Mellon University, which is like half hour from me or less, maybe 20 minutes.
Yep.
And so I was like, I'm going to look him up and get a coffee with him. That's just an awesome book. Musashi's The Book of Five Rings.
Yep.
I have like an ancient copy, an old, poor guy. He was an incredible practitioner of Salat, which was unique to me. So I think it's a French style. And he passed away in our church and gave me his like ancient copy. So I have that. I have a newer one. I mentioned The Warrior Within. And then Sun Tzu, to me, is an amazing book because you could apply it to your life. I also have Gerald Mickelson wrote the book Sun Tzu for Success. So he's able to extract pieces of it and apply it to like more of a life and business application. So all of those books to me are incredible. Be Water, My Friend, again, because of the philosophical aspects, it was quite incredible. So really, like I said, I try, and then I have like offshoot books on just striking, things like that. A lot of that I love the history of martial arts. I have some of those books, but those are some of the probably a top level that I'm passionate about.
So are you a fan of Joe Hyams, Zen in the Martial Arts? Have you read that one?
You know what's funny? I had someone recommend that not that long ago, and I need to do that.
Okay.
There's, like I said, I'm going to have to pick that up.
Yeah, let me know after you read it. I'm curious your thoughts, especially with as much as you like philosophy and stuff. I'm really curious to know your thoughts on that one. So.
Yeah, no. In fact, I'll Amazon that today. I like I said, and I fly through them when I get them. So, but
nice.
Those are, like I said, some of the books that mean a lot to me.
That's cool. All right. How about a favorite martial arts video game? Did you ever get into gaming?
I'm not a huge gamer. I grew up with Street Fighter.
Nice.
So the movie to me is quite exciting.
Yeah.
And no, it's funny. That's I think I'm so busy, and you can tell how fast I talk. That's kind of the way I live my life. I'm 100 miles an hour with my hair on fire.
Yep.
So I see these adults that play video games for hours on end, and I'm like, my God, is that unproductive? But when I was a kid, I would say the predominant video game for me was Street Fighter, and I'm actually really thrilled that's coming on to, like I said, they're launching the new movie soon with some legit martial artists in there, some really tough guys. I'm excited.
The worst too is when you see the adults that are playing video games on end and making six figures doing it. It's like, what am I doing wrong?
That to me, that's mind blowing to me. And I can't imagine my sons, who are both trying to get a degree right now, call me and go, I want to play video games for a living. That might be an issue, but I God bless the people that are doing it. That's great.
Yeah. I know our local college just put an ad out for an esports coach. I'm like, that's a thing? Really? Like I said, I'm just not that young anymore, I guess.
Yeah, I would rather spend my time watching, like, even a martial arts epic like Kill Bill, which I know some people might laugh at. But I reference my wife. I actually have a picture of her in the outfit. Is Uma Thurman, the bride in that movie? I mean, like something like that, where you have it's just incredible enjoyment to me to put on. And Tarantino's brilliant, but I saw my wife there was commonalities between Uma Thurman's character and my wife raising our son, and I said she had a Hattori Sun Tzu sword. I forgot how they referred to it in the movie. My wife had love, but they were still the same warrior spirit. So I had found a photo of her and I put it on Uma Thurman with that outfit, and we have it up on the refrigerator. So it kind of reminds me that she's an incredible warrior mom. She's awesome.
That's cool. And I'm hoping, I know he says it's not going to happen, but I'm still holding out hope that he'll do Kill Bill 3 with all the original kids, the little girl grown up and the whole cast. But I'm holding out hope as a fan that it'll happen someday.
Oh, I'm with you. One can only hope. I'll be first in line, and I'll be right in front row when that happens.
Same.
It'd be great. Yep.
Now, I know you mentioned Warrior. So a favorite martial arts TV show. Is it Warrior? Is there one that you enjoy more?
Oh, man. Recently, and my only regret, I cannot believe they didn't come up with a fourth season. Boy,
Same.
So first of all, in terms of cinema, that's a daily basis. I ingest everything I can. But I thought that was so immensely unique. And I got to tell you, too, Johannes Taslim, who's, Andrew Coy in Warrior, so formidable. He's like the only guy I would say was, in terms of ability in that show. Watching them fight, I just sat there in awe. I was amazed. And like I said, I take in a tremendous amount of cinema. Every program that I could watch, I do. And I love just even the old school Kung Fu movies.
Yeah.
It's just magical to watch. But that would probably that was my latest addiction. And when it ended and I Googled and saw that there won't be any more seasons, I wanted to cry.
Yeah, same.
But you named the movie, even, God bless, like Jason Statham, who I know he's in another mishmash of styles. I've tried to see that. He's brought kind of an edgy, tough guy mentality where it looks like combatives, but you could see how trained he is, and a guy like that. I think it's important to have that in mainstream film, and so the Yuri Boyka movies as well, who for some reason they're escaping me the names. They're incredible. I take it all in. Like I said, outside of trying to educate myself, watching the news and things like that, if I have any free time, it's a martial arts movie or a program I'll have on.
Nice. So if as far as martial arts movies, is there one that's at the top of your list? That's one that if it's on, you won't miss it. You'll like me, I have my 7-8 martial arts movies I watch at a minimum once or twice a year, like clockwork. Is there one like that?
Well, the ultimate fight scene to me is The Way of the Dragon with Lee and Norris. I mean, I that's like the two heavyweights for. I mentioned both in my list, right? So they're going at it. That's one. Enter the Dragon's another. Ip Man, I love. Oh God, there's so many. The other thing I will tell you, there was a movie that came out. I put on constantly called The Paper Tigers.
Oh, that was so good.
It is so good. And look, I'm 52. I'm not old, nor do I feel old. I can run with a 20-year-old. I work out every day. But the point being, you asked me about my surgeries. I'm 4 surgeries in. I'm kind of a little broken down physically. And you could relate in that movie because these are guys that had to get off the bench and really honor their sensei, right? And go through. And I cannot say how wonderful a film that is. It's both action, phenomenal martial arts. There's immense humor. I think it's just a gem, So I would say, there's a lot of movies I go to. I probably recently put that on play too many times, but I just love it. And the director, whose name is escaping me, I have a pretty big social media following. I have about 50,000 on Twitter because of the sports. I'm 30,000 and growing on Instagram. And I've touted that film on both, and he's actually messaged me, and I really appreciated it. So that's one. If anyone hasn't seen it, I would highly recommend.
Yeah, I believe I think it's still on Netflix too.
Yep, Netflix. In fact, that's a sign of a good movie because they won't get rid of it.
Yeah.
It's been on there, and it's one I enjoy. And like I said, it's there's a lot of both good and bad martial arts movies out there. That one's, to me, is just a gem because it combines a little bit of everything, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and a lot of people might recognize when they watch it, if they haven't seen it yet, the actor Matt Page, also known as Master Ken from YouTube fame.
And he is so good.
He is. He's such a good actor.
And I love Master Ken. But I didn't realize. What's amazing about him in the film? He's both funny, yet at times he's tender. And he puts on an all-star performance. And by the way, kudos to him. He's jacked. He's not exactly 20 anymore.
Yeah.
And he's jacked as well. So I got to give him a lot of credit. And that's what I mean. I could look at that film and relate to everybody in that film at 52 years old and training for a long time with a lot of injuries. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's pretty amazing. So I'm glad that kind of popped in my head because that is one that I watch on a regular basis.
Nice. Well, before I let you go, is there anything I forgot to ask you, or we just want to be sure to get out there before we wrap this up?
No, I have to tell you, this has been so fun for me. And I obviously, my mission is to help as many families as possible with children that have autism.
Mm-hmm.
But to be able to combine it and talk about my passion for the martial arts and some of these fun questions too, I love. It's just been an honor to be on. And I am not naive, and I want people to understand this. There have been people significantly higher caliber than me that are grandmasters. I listen to your podcast. So the fact that I'm on, I'm just humbly, I'm honored to be on. And if anyone wants to know anything about my mission or my book, if you go to harrypsaros.com, HARRYPSAROS.com, my book is on Amazon. And again, it's in obviously English and 4 additional languages. And I just hope if anyone knows someone, and this April is Autism Awareness Month. I know this might be going out a little bit later, but if you know anyone struggling with a child on the spectrum, I'm hoping you consider purchasing my book and it'll help them out.
Nice. And I will put links up for your website, for your Twitter, for your Amazon link, but whatever you need me to when the episode comes out, I'll put links on. And I seriously, once again, thank you so much for doing this and taking your time, especially on a Sunday. I know how busy people are and family time on weekends, and I'm so glad we're able to do this. And I really hope the listeners are going to love this one too.
Thank you so much. And you and all your listeners have a wonderful day. I appreciate being on.
Wrap up today's episode by taking your own training to the next level with Martial Theory by Steve Perlman, the book that's redefining martial arts thinking. Find Martial Theory on Amazon today. Join the worldwide movement at martialtheoryu.com, where you'll find Q&A sessions, live events, and direct guidance from Steve himself. Use code EverydayMA for 20% off for life. That's martialtheoryu.com, code EverydayMA. Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.